All right. And we're back with steady rotation. How are you feeling today, Queso?
Hey man, still in Texas, still eating lavishly. Shout out to Grandma Queso for blessing me with that soul food. Shout out to Zay for blessing me with some soul food.
Ooh.
And shout out for you for being here, man. I'm happy to see your face.
Yeah, man. Likewise, I missed you. Now we're back on the weekend, recounting what we listened to in terms of the new Isaiah Rashad project. I think just starting it off with, the both of us did listen to it the night it dropped, 12 a.m., midnight here, Eastern time. But, I mean, just talking about that whole listening experience, I'll just say personally, like going into it, I was very, very, very nervous because the singles that led up to the album drop were very concerning. Not to the point where I was like, "Oh my god, this album is going to be terrible," but I couldn't figure out what direction he was going in with this new project based off of the singles that he dropped, right? So then I was like, "Oh man, like is he gonna is he gonna seriously like go off course with this new project? Is it gonna be a completely different sound? Is he gonna start, changing up his rapping style? Is his penmanship game gonna be impacted by this whole, hiatus? But starting from track one, immediately my nerves were calmed. I think just hearing the first track, I was like, okay, we're not in any danger here. Starting off with Darkseid, and the album began playing, and we kind of started, just like vibing to the song, nodding our head, and realizing like, like this is like classic Zay. I'm not saying it is a classic, not off of that one track, or I think we're gonna get into the album as a whole at the end of our discussion, and where it rates, but it was very classic Zay sound. With a new
How did
kind
you
of
feel about that sample,
twist
bro?
on Darkseid.
Yeah, that little loop.
It was I liked it. That's the whole point of like that whole classic Isaiah sound is like chopping up a beat like that and having him rap over it. You know, classic shit. So, but yeah, what were your impressions off the rip from the first listen that night?
So again, entering the listening session, I was eager to listen to the tape. Again, 4+ years in the making. Unlike some of the other homies, I actually enjoyed the singles. But like you said, I guess, well, let me say this. When I heard the snippet for, I guess, the title track, which I really wanted to hear on the album, that kind of like locked it into my head to say, I know, quote unquote, what sound to expect, or at least, quote unquote, I think I know. So entering the intro track, I was actually very surprised that the instrumentation like really hit me. I was like, oh, yeah. Like this is like I said, a classic Zay sound. Like I'm really feeling it. And then you hear him like asking, what is there to do when you go outside but get rich? But like don't floss too hard or get your head split. And that was obviously, all right, there we go. Zay talking to Zay bringing that raw energy that we all appreciate. I was expecting drums. I can't lie with you.
I know. I was waiting for the beat drop.
Yeah, for that beat drop, but he didn't do that. So I was like, oh. And I'm like, not oh damn. It's like, okay, like it's an intro track, it's just setting up the tone.
Right.
But long story short, it was a great first impression, a great way to start the album, in my opinion. It to me reminded me of that TDE feel, if you know what I mean. Like this is like, hey bro, you listen to one of the TDE guys. Yeah. Pay attention.
There were a couple songs on this project that definitely had that TDE sound. But even just off the title, not the title track, the intro track, Darkseid, and I think we're gonna have to listen to it a lot more, obviously, because it's only been out only for a couple days. But I think it gives a little bit insight into maybe where his head is at or where his life's at this point, because there are like a couple lyrics about him like being like this, like looking out for his kids, right? Being that family provider, but also some topics about like accepting, maybe life or accepting death. The fact that that's something that he's had to struggle with since Sylvia demo. That's always been a topic that has always been on his mind and in his lyrics. So that's why I'm like, it is a classic Isaiah track. Maybe, I mean, it's an intro track. Yeah, I was waiting for the beat to drop the whole time, but just realizing that this is just gonna set the tone for the album, et cetera, et cetera, and then kind of go from there. So, yeah, just going into the next track with Lil Uzi Vert. Lil
Do you want to
Uzi.
go first or should I?
You go first. I want to hear your
All
take
right.
on this.
So again, as a Zay fiend, I heard the snippet way back in 2019, 2017, 2019. So, and again, I have to preface that to say this was not a track for me per se. The beat, while completely fine, I wanted the original beat, but again, that goes to me having expectations. But removing that sort of bias, just listening to the song, I enjoyed the fact that Zay was rapping. Like, he clearly was like placing energy into his flows, and I really liked the flow switches he did, especially in the third verse. Like, you could definitely tell that he was like trying to do some lyrical exercise in terms of how he spit.
Yeah, but definitely change up the flow.
The hook, Basura, throw that in garbage. That was too repetitive. Like, came out busting. I can see why it's hype. I definitely understand if you like it. I'm not even gonna give you crap for it. But from someone like Zay, who I feel gives you more of a smoky type vibe when it comes to his hooks, that came out busting, came out busting, came out busting, came out busting, came out fucking on your cousin. Like, all right, bro. Like, really? I'm like, okay. Uzi was on the track. Uzi did his thing. I'm not a big Uzi fan, so like, it felt more like a featuring name. And maybe like low-key, also like, Uzi's feature on Tyler's album, if you remember, on Juggernaut, that was actually like really flame. Yeah. So low-key, a part of me is like, hey, Uzi, like, you could have gone harder, bro. Mm-hmm. But overall, this track isn't for me, but I don't have really any complaints except for the hook. The hook was...
Yeah, the hook is questionable, but I kind of honestly feel the same way. To me, this is just like a banger track, and especially I can see it kind of popping off in a live setting at a concert when he starts to go on tour this year, which we will be seeing him in September. But yeah, I think the interesting parts about this song was like, especially within his verses, he was able to switch up his flows, kind of just sticking with one cadence. Even in the first verse, I noticed that he's kind of rapping to the beat, and then he kind of just goes into just like his regular kind of flow when he kind of starts to hit his stride. The Lil Uzi Vert feature, I think, is just it was fine. I don't think it's anything crazy from Uzi. Like, I think the production kind of it doesn't. I don't think Uzi being on this song was like, I don't think it added or took away from the song, but I don't think the production helped him in any way. So like having a guy like Lil Uzi, who you're trying to get, like maybe you're trying to get that young crowd in, because a lot of the younger crowd do fuck with Uzi like that, and just getting Isaiah to have some of those eyes on his albums, or his ears, I should say, to come in and listen to a song like this. But I don't really know if that would work, because the song is kind of, it's a little bit disjointed, I want to say. Like, it's kind of everywhere, and then the hook is kind of trash, as you said. But it comes and goes, and I can appreciate kind of Isaiah kind of going off a little bit, spitting. Uzi does his thing, and then jumps in and out. My main gripe actually about this track was its place in the track listing. I feel like it could have served a better place, like maybe in the middle or the second half of the album. Probably more towards the middle, but as the second song, because no other song really sounds like this. Even the like 9 to 3 Freestyle or Hey Mista, which are like the other bangers, or Wit Ya, that all have like kind of interesting production, or production that's like derived from like, that Southern style. But from the Garden, it's like, yeah, this song has been out for a few years now, with the snippets, and the production is definitely changed since the snippet was released or leaked. But yeah, I think it's an okay track. Nothing. I don't know if I'll come back to it a lot, but I can definitely see myself moshing to it.
The track is, in my opinion, inoffensive. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make it's inoffensive. I actually did think that it made sense in the track listing in sort of the very chill approach. Like, you're starting off with a very introspective track, a very chill, and then you just hit a person with like a 1-2 punch. Maybe. It's just that the 1-2 punch in this instance didn't knock me out. Like, for instance, if maybe they chose Lay With Ya or something else, I think I would have preferred that over. But
yeah,
I can see what Zay was trying to do.
Or he could have switched it with the 2 and 3, going from Darkseid to R.I.P. Young. Then you have From the Garden going into Lay With Ya. I think that sounds a little bit better on my ears, just because Darkseid, the production is scaled back on there, and he's rapping, and then it just goes into this abrasive like cadence and flow, and it's bouncing, and it just hits you. And I guess maybe it is trying to do that 1-2 punch effect, and I think it kind of does work in that way. But yeah, we go into track number 3, R.I.P. Young.
Go first, bro. Pop your shit.
I mean, when this song came on, I think this was the song that confirmed that we were okay. We were good. We had Isaiah back. We had him rapping. We had the 3-6 Mafia sample. We had the bars. We had the vibes. We had the production. I mean, it just came in, and we were like, as soon as it started playing, we were like, this is it. This is it right here. To me, this song was like, just your essential like slanging, kind of track. You're pushing weight or whatever, and it just gives off that kind of southern vibe. And this song, 100%. It when you play it in the car, you can kind of like you feel like you've got weight in your car and you're ready to go meet up or go push some of this weight off. So yeah, this song is probably gonna be in the top tier of this album to me, and it got shout outs from a lot of people in terms of TDE. Schoolboy really liked this track. I think Missy Elliott kind of shouted out the album as a whole, but I mean, how can you not like this track? This is like that classic. This is another classic Rashad track to me.
So, all right. We hear that classical sample coming in, and to be honest with you, when I heard the sample, I was like, not because the song is bad, but because to me it's kind of like almost a cliche. Like, that's a classic, like a classic sample. Sure. What's Zay gonna do on this? I was like, but then, look, man, he just glided on that beat, and then once we get to the chorus, come on, bro. Bitches, they say I'm a cool cat. Fuck that. Tell them bitch, I'm a top dog. I'm a top dog. Look, this is gonna be the TDE anthem for Zay fans for whenever this man decides to drop music again. Like, that one line alone, I'm not saying solidify the track, but like that's like a quotable to me, if you know what I mean. Like, that's this is just a good song, man. Like,
he's just rapping. Talking his shit. He's talking his shit on this album.
He's getting his shit off, bro. Like, it's a great track. He used a sample in a very minimalistic way, but like it made sense. It wasn't like let's just say if the beat on Darkseid really the sample of Darkseid took me by surprise, and I guess the new beat of Garden was kind of like whatever to me. This beat to me felt like you said a classic. Like, this would feel like a well produced Zay type beat, for lack of a better term, which might sound like insulting, but it just means it knew what to do. It wasn't trying to do too much. It wasn't trying to go out of its box, but it's just a good Zay track, man. Like, again, I mean, for me, the pros, the beat and the hook are flames. Once I got into it, I got no real complaints.
No, I don't either. The only thing is, like, I think with also this track, you start to understand that this is going to be separate from the Sun's Tirade. This is going to be its own standalone album. And when you listen to that song, if you're coming away from Sylvia Demo or the Sun's Tirade and you're listening to this song, you might start asking, like, where are the introspective bars? Where's the deeper meaning to all this? And I mean, and I think we're going to get into it a little bit more when we start like judging the album as a whole, but this is a track that not only has replay value for me, but I'm enjoying I'm enjoying the song so far at this point. And R.I.P. Young kind of gave you that like little jolt, especially like you're like, okay, Isaiah's back. He's on his classic shit right here. He's on his beat. He's rapping. He's talking his shit, talking about to me this is kind of like just like a party track almost, like a summer cookout track. So
This is definitely
yeah,
a head. This is definitely in the car. This is definitely bumping the whip music.
yes.
In the concert, I'm definitely gonna be head bobbing like a motherfucker on this track.
But yeah, like
Let's
he's
just go to
literally
the next track,
yeah,
bro.
he's yeah. Which is Lay With Ya. We've heard about this track. We talked about it a lot. I think again, like I think it's fine. It out of all the singles that dropped, I think it's the least controversial one. Maybe initially when it dropped, people might have been like, "What? He dropped the full on banger with Duke Deuce?" Like,
What
but
the fuck?
yeah. But now with given the context of like all the singles that have dropped and like how it's played out on the album, and now with the outro on it, which I think is almost every song on this album has some sort of kind of outro or kind of like a little beat switch at the end. There's nothing really like just ending or kind of fading out as a whole song. There's a little something at the end, which I kind of liked on Lay With Ya. But yeah, another banger. It's gonna be fun at the concert to hear the song. Yes, I would have liked Isaiah to maybe like pick himself up lyrically, but I think the flow matches the beat. He does his thing, and Duke Deuce does outshine him on this track. Am I going to criticize Isaiah for that? No, not really. Like, I think it's a fine track. Like, it's a banger. It's nothing. There's nothing here that's really like. If we're taking for what it is, I don't think Isaiah like. He might be a little bit underwhelming in terms of lyrical content, but he kind of glides on the beat a little bit. He's doing his thing. Yes, he's on his mumble rap shit. But yeah, no more recent complaints about this song outside of what we already discussed.
So yeah, I mean, hearing the song in the context of the album, it definitely makes sense. Like, initially just hearing it as a standalone single, you maybe thought that this is just like a one-off party track. But in the context of the album, I definitely think it makes sense why it exists. Again, the instrumentation is dope. Shout out to Duke Deuce. I'm not going to say that Duke Deuce washed Isaiah on the song, but I will say that Duke was the standout performance. That, I think no one can really debate that. Mm-hmm. I like Zay's. Again, I had no issues with Zay's verse. Literally, my only complaint was I wanted more. I wanted a second verse.
Yeah.
So, but if that's my issue with you, that's not a bad issue. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if I want to hear more of you on the song, that means I like what you're selling.
Yeah.
I like the little flurry at the end of the beat too. Mm-hmm. Overall, yeah. Shout out to Lay With Ya, concert headbanger for sure. Definitely still in my rotation. And like you said, It was the least controversial single that came out because it hit for what it was, which is a banger. It hit damn near all the marks.
Yeah. And I think if you're still hung up about like this whole like, oh, he's not rapping, he's just kind of doing his like, watch the music video and then you'll understand what the purpose of this song is. It's a party track. It's a bop. You're supposed to listen to this with like when you're at a party with a cup in your hand, not at home. I mean, you can listen to it at home, but in terms of like sitting at your computer desk chair, like being like, where are my bars? Where are my lyrics? Like it just
you better get a cup with you on that computer chair.
Exactly. Party time anywhere.
Oh, one thing though, this song did bring forth the magical, the phenomenal bar. I'm a Gucci Mane. You a Captain Kirk. That is going to be part of my vocabulary for a mean minute.
Yeah. That's true. Captain Kirk is going to be it's going to be around for a while.
Yeah, how you feel about Claymore, bro?
So this is where it takes a little bit of a like 6, 7, 8 seconds to really drop in terms of the the production, the beat. But it was one of those like head turning moments, like what? Because I did not really expect this song to kind of come up, and it's not typically I think this is kind of new for Isaiah to kind of rap on something as kind of it is a hip hop beat, but I guess it with the guitar sample, with the harmonizing of the vocals, with him kind of rapping about like just trying to trying to get with girls and shit. I mean, this is a perfect summer song right here. Shimino comes through with the heavenly lyrics, with the heavenly sound on the second half. Yeah, it's like one of those Netflix and chill songs, and I really like this song. Honestly, I don't hate it at all, like in any way. I think it's just one of those summer songs. It just takes you away, like as soon as the beat comes in and like the guitar, it transports you.
Yo, that is actually perfect. Like that was perfectly put. This is a perfect Netflix and chill song.
Yeah.
Because initially, like, again, first listen, the vibe just took me over. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like you said, like this reminds you of the summer beach, Super Mario Sunshine vibes, all of that. And then, once I like start listening to the song more, trying to catch up what Zay's talking about. It's like essentially him chilling with two girls, getting high.
Yep.
Possible threesome action, you know what it is.
Was it Keisha and Tisha?
Yeah, Keisha and Peach, you know what it is. And yeah, it was just I was very impressed. Like I'll be very honest with you. If you ever told me that Zay would be able to make, if there would ever be a song of such a sonical caliber on a Zay project, I wouldn't say that I doubted it, but I just could never imagine it personally. Yeah. This is definitely this to me could honestly be like a radio single if you feel like I could hear this.
I was just gonna say this is like his studio, the Schoolboy's track, but without the whole label push behind it. I think, if we're looking at what song on here is gonna be that label push, radio play song, it's probably gonna be Score. But you have a track right here with Claymore, which is, just as, it has that same effect. And it's like, it's got that replay value. But yeah, no, I agree with you, man.
Shout out to Shimino. That was honestly the perfect feature verse.
Yeah.
Shimino was definitely the perfect guy to ask for this. This song was amazing. The song is an experience. It was made for Shimino. I don't want to use the word.
It was made for Shimino.
It was made for Shmeen, and you can clearly hear that. Shout out to Zay for doing his thing. Shout out to Shmeen for contributing, and that was just overall a great Netflix and chill song.
Yeah.
Zay Wap out here really blessing the fans for real, for real.
Yeah. There's a lot of songs on here with features, and when you have an individual like Shmino who's known for, their singing talent, you expect that, like, maybe Shmino might outshine Isaiah on this track. But I do think they both carry the track individually, like, in equal parts, because Isaiah sets up the whole vibe to me. Without him setting up the vibe, Shmino can't really come in, with his vocals and really closing out the song the way that he does. And then, how it kind of, like, the outro with the song. But yeah, to me, 8.5 out of 10 track, 9 out of 10. Maybe even.
This is a song you play when people have never heard of Isaiah Rashad before. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. And then it goes into, I think it flows in nicely to Headshots for the Locals, which is another song that we've, discussed at length. But I think.
Wait. Let me.
All right, I'll let you take the reins.
So look. Headshots to me felt like untapped potential, or it felt like a song that could have been quote unquote the one, and instead it's just a good vibey track. In the context of the album, like you said, I definitely agree. It flows very well from Claymore. I kind of expected like a remix, like maybe like again a feature verse maybe on the second verse, or maybe rewrite the second verse. That didn't happen, maybe. So my complaints still stand. But yeah, it's just a song that I just kind of have to close my eyes and just let it carry me where it carries me.
Yeah, I think going back to what we discussed about this song initially and kind of the points that you brought up, it's gonna have to be that song that makes you think, like what if he had changed that second verse, or what if he maybe added to the chorus, or maybe if he could have just changed the lyrics overall. But I think it gets a little bit of a bump for me as part of the album because I do think it makes me understand a little bit in terms of, and this was one of the main complaints about the single when it came out for me, was that there are lyrics in the song that discuss like the topics of kind of like what he's been up to in terms of life, death, maybe from the perspective of someone in their 20s. And I think overall there are a lot of songs that touch upon those same kind of topics on this album. So I can kind of see now why this might have been, released as a single, kind of why it's on the album in the first place. But I think the point still stands that, there were still things that could have been changed about this song to kind of elevate it. But, if you're just playing it in the background, I think it's okay. It's definitely
untapped potential, but it's a vibe. It's this is literally a vibe.
It is. So, I'll let you go first on this one. You take it first.
First and foremost, excuse me, those wearing headphones right now, you've been warned. But fuck that beat,
That beat is special.
That instrumentation.
The sequencing on that shit was, and just the overall sound, or like the overall like vibe of the track is I don't want to call it dark, but it's definitely moody.
It feels like you're in an underwater cave or something. Yeah. Semi-ominous, but like, man, it reminds me of like underwater levels in Mario games. But the beat is phenomenal. The female feature verse, she was made for that track.
I liked her.
I want to shout. Yeah, she was made for that track. Yeah. Like her voice is like paired really well. I even liked her introduction verse where she said like something about like I even liked her introduction verse where she's talking about giving a guy like all of hers, and then the guy only giving her hip, the guy only giving her 10%, and she said that's cool. I'll make you better for the next bitch, but just know I need that back tenfold. I was like, oh, a little slick wordplay.
Yeah,
and then again, first listen, it just carried me over, right? But obviously, multiple listens, I was trying to figure out what is the song about, because I think you and I both agreed that the song definitely had something extra. This was one of those songs that had like something sprinkled in there if you like paid attention. And just hearing the song, how he's kind of struggling with, like getting high to sort of run away from his problems.
Yes.
This song was a really strong, had a really interesting contrast with the intro track, Darkseid, where it's like, oh, okay, so like Zay's kind of on his shit, like he knows what he wants to do, but that doesn't mean that Zay's quote unquote out of the woods work yet, from what I gathered from that song. So just hearing him talking about his issues, this to me was like classic Sylvia demo to me, if that makes sense, in terms of like the topics that were discussed in the song, not how they were approached, but the topics themselves.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. Like in terms of the content on this track, it's definitely like demons are still following him. Even though he's released his second album and he's looking at, working back into his career and being back into the mainstream with, as a member of TDE, I think with a track like this, it gives you another like insight into his life, like, in terms of like maybe how he still feels like these demons still follow him. There's still a lot of topics about, I think just talking about like how people are screaming at home and at phones, we're all hurting, still talking about death on this. I'm not sure if it's not that I don't like the song, and I 100% agree. The beat, the production on this track is so fucking good. But Zay is so underwhelming on this. I'm not gonna lie. To me, I feel like he falls like a little bit like under the mix of everything. He doesn't really shine through a lot, and the lyrics are there, but Mindy kind of, I wouldn't say steals the track from him, but when I'm listening to it, it's like And it's so weird because there's not much going on production wise, but I'm still like it's almost like I'm forcing myself to kind of pay attention to Zay on this track. So that's my only complaint about the song. To me, that's what I think we were talking about, like all herb, and like this is the one song that I wish he could have shown up a little bit more. And I think this is kind of maybe aligns with some of the complaints that we're seeing and hearing from people who are criticizing this album, who kind of lean towards that this album is, you know, nothing like Sun's tirades, which it's not supposed to, but that this is kind of, you know, an underwhelming project from Zay. So I think with my argument or like my points about this track kind of leans or aligns with some of that sentiment. So I can kind of understand why people feel that way based off of this track. To me, yeah. And I might be wilding. I could be wilding. I still need to listen to this album a lot more, but Amindi with the wordplay, I think she fits the track perfectly. I just wish Zay didn't. I wish I didn't have to feel like I'm straining my ears to listen to Zay and really decipher what he's saying as well.
So, you and I both agree that Amindi, shout out to her.
Yeah.
Fucking did her thing on that track. She definitely was the magical seasoning. And I'll also agree that her verse definitely stood out to me, at least sonically, right? Like just by listening versus Zay's. But see, I actually liked that Zay's muted disposition on this track just a little bit, only because, again, thematically speaking, I think it added a little bit more. It made more sense thematically with the track. Mm-hmm. Because if Zay was in that position when he was rapping that song, I don't expect him to be quote unquote, you know, audible or like as coherent, so to speak. Not to say that he sounded slurred, but he definitely sounded muted. So I definitely can see why someone doesn't like it, but at least in this specific track, I actually enjoy the muted nature because it made it for, like you said, you felt that you had to strain your ears in the same way this track forced me to pay attention, and I actually like that because once I found what was there, I felt like, you know, I guess I found like I found a magical treasure, if that makes sense. Like the song, due to him being so subdued, the song forced me to pay attention, and what I found, I enjoyed. So that's why I don't feel like it was a waste. But, you know, I can definitely see why some people wanted a little bit more of an energetic or just a more present day on the song.
I mean, it's your song. Like, I get maybe like the thematically, like you can kind of get away or you can kind of go in to this track with that kind of, in terms of the finished product and what we heard with this kind of laid back kind of way of spitting and rhyming and with the flow and everything. But yeah, that's my only gripe about this song. I'm not hating on the song at all. I just think it could have gotten that nice little push from me, personally, if he was a little bit more present. In my opinion, still need to listen a lot more to pretty much everything on this album. But yeah, then it really starts to pick back up with Hey Mista. Oh man, bro, this shit was heat. It was heat. I'm telling you, when me and Queso were listening to this song, when we were like live streaming this shit, when this shit came on, we're like, oh my god, and like just headbanging, head swinging. Don't even care what the lyrics are. This song is absolute heat. And then when when the production not fades out, but like it get like the percussion kind of like phases out, and it's just him rapping, and then it's these layered vocals, and you can hear like the distorted vocals too, kind of adding to the energy of this banger already. I don't even mind that it's a short song either. This is definitely going to be like just the replay value for me on this one. It's just the dark energy on this one, you know. And I think, you know, just talking about like from, you know, we all know how I kind of feel about dark energy and bangers when things are kind of in that realm. You know, back to my discussion about like Yeezus and why I love Yeezus so much is because of that energy with the ambiance of that, like that darkness and stripped back and like aggression. This is kind of like in that ballpark. So of course I'm going to love this song.
Fam. The first fam.
This is the first. No, I think we ran back Claymore But this one we like we got to replay this shit.
No. This is the first track we ran back.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right.
Oh, no. So we repeated it. Claymore, we had to run it back. But, like, this is the one we had to repeat. We just had to hit the repeat.
Yeah.
So, look, bro. When man says, when Zay's talking to Cal, the producer, shout out to Cal Banks.
Oh, Cal's going to be a mainstay.
Bro, just off of this one track, I'm keeping an eye on him. But anyways, you hear him like, Cal will fucking leave. And he does this goofy laugh. Obviously, like, I was like, oh, look, Zay's sounding happy. And then the beat just hits me like a fucking truck.
Yeah. I'm
like wondering, wait, what's happening? It has that dark, feel to it. But it's not like depressing dark or just like, it's like ominous, but in a comic book type of way almost. And then you just hear the man's like spit his like little, then you hear the man spit his little hook. Which, by the way, real quick, man says me and the homies off the cube. He says me and the niggas was on P's. Then we on some blades. Then we was on some blades. Then we was on the sofa, knowing them bitches gon' tease like we on stage. When we was on porches, Sonny Dunn got a little paid and got a little horses and got a little fortress. I was just having them days. I'd hit the subway, then I would hit a porch. Yay! Just that hook alone already told me like, yo, Q, like he did not. It's not as if that man switched up with the topics that he's rapping about. He did not switch up about the content of his verses. So when I heard that hook, I was amazed. I heard the bank register. I heard the random alien sound.
Oh yeah, the
taking a bag. Yeah. The verse was very, very, very much like the first verse. I don't even want to call it a verse. It's like literally like what 4-6 lines.
Yeah,
but then the hook comes back in, and then that second verse comes in, and I don't know what the fuck he's saying, but like I'm just feeling mobbing or moshing energy. And he just keeps going, and like you said, like you just feel the chaotic energy. Look, bro, this to me is like Zay's Freestyle 4. I understand 1,000% why you do not like the song and say it needed to have more stuff. In fact, yes, they fucking give me a third and a fourth and a fifth verse. I want more shit. But what we got was a fucking experience. Shout out to Cal Banks for the beat production. Shout out to Zay for showing up. In fact, despite the second verse being very much not audible when I first listened to it, after like the third or fourth listen, man's just kind of saying something in there. If you actually low-key peeped, he's talking about the come-up story. If you like low-key peeped.
Like with the tracks with like, the, like just kind of going off what you were saying. Of course, I wish he kind of like went off a little bit more, but what we got, this was that juice, that kind of like, when it pops up on the track list, you're like a little bit kind of, you're still kind of coming off of like Headshots and All Herb, and then this shit comes back on.
Bro, this is his num juice.
Yeah.
He gave us gas. That's all I gotta say, man. I just want more, and that's it. I just want more of this energy. That's
I like the chorus too because there's not like crazy like MF Doom like wordplay going on here, but there is like. No. There is some wordplay going on here, and it's kind of reminiscent of like, just like him trying to again like talking shit and trying to kind of make sure like he's hitting the ends of the bars and kind of bringing them back in on the next bar. Going from horse to fortress and like trying to make sure that he's kind of like showing off his skills, but not really like going too like crazy lyrically, which is fine. And I think that's like honestly like. Yeah, we all know Zay for being like this a person who prides himself in penmanship, his ability to rap his own lyrics to kind of match the energy of the song or the tone of the track. But when you kind of come out with a chorus like this, with the song, with the production, considering everything and how it all meshes well together to turn into this chaotic energy. Like if you don't get hyped to the song, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you don't feel the same way. Like this is for me like his best banger track. He doesn't have too many. He doesn't have too many, but to me this is my favorite at least. I'll say that.
I'll say this: if you, again, like, agreed, right? Like sure, on a lyrical sense, on a song sense, criticize. Like make valid points because there definitely are valid points to be made. But if you listen to the song and do not want to go to a concert and experience this live, I don't need to talk to you. I truly wish you the best. Good luck in life, but we don't have to ever interact with each other. That's all I gotta say.
Mm. But yeah, so now on the track list, we're halfway through the album. We're entering the second half.
Yeah.
And this is where it starts to kind of trip me up a little bit with True Story. This is the one song probably on the whole album that I feel like I'm trying to force myself to like it. I don't know what it is, and I think it's not even like the production, because it's got that the TD West Coast kind of vibe on it. You got J Rock, kind of on this, and with Worthy as well. And but J Rock's, what's your opinion about his feature verse?
J Rock to me gave me that 90059 energy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe with a delivery of redemption, but I could definitely feel like, okay, like he didn't just want to. J Rock definitely wanted to, I guess, get his shit off, so to speak, rather than just kind of be part of the track.
Mm-hmm.
I think that J Rock personally had the standout verse, but that new dude, or not new dude, but Jay Worthy, he fit in the pocket so smooth, bro.
Yeah,
like I'm not gonna sit here and say
Worthy
that,
definitely fit on this track better than both of those. Isaiah,
I agree.
Jay,
like Rock to me had the best verse, but Worthy had the best performance.
Yeah.
To add my 2 cents on this track, I like the beat. I like the Christmas jingles, or the Christmas, like the Christmas percussion, and the sleigh bells. I was like, that's nice. I like the beat. And in fact, that little bass line is like really dope and interesting.
No, it is.
I'm trying to think like where I've heard that before. I think do you remember that song by Jay-Z, The Story of OJ?
Yeah.
Remember like the intro bass, like do you remember that bass, like how that song started?
Are you trying to say that they're using the same bass line, or sampled it?
That's what I'm thinking. I haven't confirmed it yet because I didn't look at the credits like that. But that's what that bass line reminded me of, that song. But overall, it's funny actually, because the same way how you feel it, you feel that you had to force to like yourself this track. You felt that you had to force yourself to like this track. For me, I didn't have any qualms or issues, but this was one of the instances in this album in fact, this is the first instance in this album where I genuinely felt like Zay was washed by his features.
Yeah.
In the previous songs, I felt like they each played their role. Sure, the standout was the feature, but Zay added or built to the vibe. This is the one time I felt like Zay, this feels like more like a J Rock song to me, featuring those two guys, than Zay song, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like if you're gonna ask me to quote a lyric that Rashad spit on this track, I can't, for the life of me, I can't. You could have a gun to my head. You could. Absol could be like having a fit in front of me, but I'm not gonna quote any lyric from this song. I thought J Rock's feature verse was kind of funny. It was just like, I don't know, when you listen to J Rock, and it's he was on Sun's Tirade, and he had a great verse on there, and that whole track, what was it, Augustine? On Sun's Tirade? Yeah. His verse fit the whole kind of vibe of that track. To me, that track, I don't know why it reminds me of like just soul food, but if we're talking about that track as a whole, then J Rock's verse on that track is like the gumbo to the whole meal of that track. That's like he fits that sound so well. But then he's on here rapping about like just some shit about like he's like, I'm the Eastiest, Say we gotta eat this, still hungry, they peep in it, clean the plate up, like talking about like he gets carried away with some of the themes of the lyrics that he's coming up with. I found myself kind of smiling and laughing a little bit, and I think that just shows like I don't hate his verse on here, but I was expecting maybe something different. I don't know why. Maybe some. This does have like that redemption delivery, though. I agree with you on that. Jay Worthy, I think fits this track. Out of all three of the individuals on this track, I think he fits the song the best here. Even though his feature verse is not anything crazy, I did like the lyric of getting off this weight like it's keto. That shit made me laugh too. Both verses made me laugh. But I appreciated Jay Worthy's presence on the track the most.
Agreed. I'm not gonna call it a bad song because I won't,
No.
but this did not to me feel like a Zay song. Like Zay definitely was a background character. Like if honestly, if this was like on J Rock's album and like it didn't even say featuring Zay, like I think we would have just been like, oh, that's cool. Like, oh look, Zay did a little like mumble stuff. Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, Zay did do that for a 5059. I mean, 9059, if you remember. Remember when he did the little hook for Homie?
Oh, for Homie, yeah.
Yeah. Want to drive, like, or
so
want to
long
ride?
ago
I
now.
want to go. I want to drive. Man, that was a vibe, man.
Yeah. I don't hate the track. I'm not going to call it shit. But for me, it ranks at the bottom. So
Agreed.
Yeah. And then we got What You Said, which is another single that we talked about before.
Look, bro. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. This is a single we didn't talk about. I literally only have this to say. This is a summer bop, and that's it. I like Zay's contribution. The female on the second verse was really good. In fact, I'll even go as far as to say that if Zay did both verses on this song, I might have kind of looked at it like, But because the feature verse showed up at the second verse, was able to switch it up enough. She had that nice little Coil Ray / SZA energy. This is a summer bop. I've no complaints. It's not like it's just a good song. Like it's not top tier, but it's definitely I have no concerns like I did with True Story. That's it.
Yeah. Just discussing the song with you before already. Yeah, I don't really have any complaints about the song. When it dropped, it didn't really drop. It just showed up on the track list, right? When the album came out for like pre-save. It didn't really have it wasn't dropped as a single like initially. You had to kind of like look for it on the album. Then it got released as a single formally. But yeah, I Am Doechii, if that's how you say it, and Cal Banks. I like Cal Banks' contribution. I like how he's kind of like the effect on his voice. He's kind of like faded out and also a little bit distorted or maybe just muddied up a bit. But this is definitely just another vibe track to me. I don't hate it. It's nothing like how can you really hate? I mean, haters gonna hate.
How could you though, bro?
How could you? Captain Kirk. Any Captain Kirk's listening right now. But yeah, I think it just adds to the album as a whole. Adds to the whole
it's
general
inoffensive.
vibe. Yeah, it adds
it's
to the
inoffensive.
vibe. I have no complaints. I don't think that this song warrants heavy lyrics from anyone. I do like I'm Doechii's contribution to the song because it fits the song so nicely, and she is kind of the offspring of Coil Ray and SZA. So she's definitely better than. Well, let's not even go there.
Don't do it, Vic.
I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. But yeah, I don't think we need to talk about anymore about this track.
One thing though, I did like the line where Zay said, "Fuck what a nigga do, reach for some inner peace." Yeah. And the only reason I really remember that line, to be honest, is in the music video. When Zay said, "Reach for some inner peace," man was trying to grasp for something. Watch the video, you'll see what I mean. That's just something for the fans if they want to check it out.
Or maybe like he's also talking about peace as in a weapon, a gun.
Could also be.
Yeah. And then
talking about pieces, bro. Don't shoot.
Exactly. Don't shoot. Man. This was like that whole like that moment where you kind of just like I've been like recognizing that like you're existing, like you're breathing, you're just like immersed in how good a song is. And I think for the both of us, our reactions was like this is gonna be. I think I'm gonna speak for myself, but I feel like you share the same opinion about me. Uh,
You'll hear it. You'll hear it.
that this is a top tier overall Rashad track. This is such a it's such an emotional punch, and not necessarily like the lyrics are like being like heavily emotional, but just like the sentiment behind like don't shoot, you know, do you have anything to lose for in this life? Um, People dying, you know, just because of conflict, and just the production, the vocals, man. I can't say anything more about this track. It just hits you. And you realize like when you're hearing it, like this is a special track.
Chief, big, big man. Remember when we had to run it back? That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
We had to run it back. Like, because again, like, a little bit of context. Like, we heard a little bit of the beat work because of that little snippet that Zay posted about, him being missing for 5 years. If you remember, like, the IG stories or IGs, funny. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
Again, the beat sounded cool, but we didn't hear much besides him just saying there's not much to live for.
Yeah.
Zay's in his, again, introspective or sad boy bag. Let's see what's happening. The beat is phenomenal. Like, it's unique.
Yeah.
Okay, let me not call it phenomenal, but I fell in love with the beat. I can honestly say, like, this felt it felt eclectic. It felt like something very Zay. Like, this feels like what you would get from Zay as the years progress. Because I don't. This almost feels like something you would have gotten in Sylvia Demo, but refined to what we got now. Shout out to Cal Banks. That don't shoot sounds so smooth.
Yeah.
Then you hear the man's verses. And again, just like the sentiment behind, again, not having anything to live for, but still trying to find a purpose.
Yeah.
Not trying to, man. Look, bro, this is to me like the Heavenly Father of this tape.
Yeah.
This to me is the Heavenly Father of this tape.
It might be a little blasphemous to say that shit because, Heavenly Father is such a...
I get, yeah.
But no, I agree with you. I'm just saying.
See, I'm not going to compare the tracks. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is that if there's like that one song off of Silk that made me do a double take, like, so hold up.
Where it hits you.
Don't Shoot did that for me. Like, my goodness. Like, my bro, like, the second verse, like, you know what this is? This is a better Headshots.
Yeah. I think that's
this
what we said
is
that
what
night.
Headshots, this is what I wanted Headshots to be.
This is the bar for Headshots. And even like just with the lyrics, man, this is finally where he can kind of talk about, and this is the shit that I liked from Sylvia Demo, and then he started to kind of strip back some of these topics on Sun's Tirade, but like talking about, got no time for vacation, but what's vacation? Getting high. What is that substance, or what is that weed provide you? Some inner peace, some vacation, maybe from the life or the situation that you're in, growing up in some certain communities across the country, having to rely on gang violence to kind of make ends meet, but the reality of gang violence is that you lose a lot of friends, you lose a lot of people in your life, you're constantly on the lookout for your own life. Being involved with cops and having them come around talking about warrants, but they're just really robbing you. And then even like getting to the point of like how all this kind of affects the individual, growing up, whether it's these tough neighborhoods across the country or the projects, and just kind of, I think a lot of topics are themes about race and maybe poverty, violence, what it's really like to live, or what is it really like to kind of lose, what's worth losing at this point in your life. And I think it just drives home the point of the tone of the track. I don't know. It's a very vibey song. Like, this is a song that I would like play just out of pleasure. But if you really read the lyrics, you kind of like I don't know, it like hits you, man. Like this is like some real shit that he's talking about. And I think we can kind of relate to in some ways in terms of like not having time for vacation, um, relying on maybe, partying and the weekend to kind of get away from everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then
Oh,
also like, yeah, I don't
like
know.
sorry, no, sorry, like not to cut you off, but like I'm even just remembering the line. Remembering it says in the second verse, like, can't blame your God. Sometimes you gotta
Right.
maintain your side.
Uh-huh.
Man, like that even because that's like a line about accountability, and then like just thinking of
Yeah.
like you said, just thinking about where Zay must have been when writing this, or just even the people in those positions. It's like,
Yeah. And you're all praying to the same God too.
yeah,
At the end of
it's
the
like
day.
sometimes you gotta maintain your side.
Yeah.
And also shout out to random solos, vocals reminded me of West Savannah, if you remember that on Sil.
Yeah.
What
says
I'm smoking the killer, making the killing, dodging the killings.
Yeah.
Like, bruh. Look,
they've been shipping.
like you said,
They've been shipping my dude off at 28 Summer. He's only been out for as a free person for 3-4 months. The cycle of incarceration. There's a lot of nuggets in here. There's a lot of insight. This shit is real. That's basically it. Shit is real.
I'm gonna say this right here, right now, and I might be blasphemous. The fans, please comment, say that I went crazy or that I'm just smoking crack. This to me is definitely a top 10 Zay track. I don't care. I'll even go as far to say might even be a top 5 if we really had a discussion. And the reason that I would even go that far is because
he only has 3 projects out.
I mean, yeah, small body work, but in the same way how I said that I enjoyed Herb because like you kind of had to fish for the meaning in Herb a little bit, and for you felt like Zay could have had a bigger presence, but to me I felt it sounded more like a treasure. This to me has that same level of Herb, but maybe executed on a more ideal level because, like you said, on a base level you can just enjoy the beat, enjoy the mood, don't shoot. But if, like you said, if you actually take the time to digest what Mans is saying, it paints a picture. Yeah. It paints a raw picture. And I think that's what we go
nicely on the track too. Like there's no time wasted on the track. There's no funny business in terms of cadence or like him trying to like switch things up. Like I think he's really rapping from his soul here. Which is like it translates so well like audio wise, like you can hear it, and I think that's why we love this song. And I think we can honestly say yes, maybe I'm also on that pipe too with you, but also considering this as a top 10 Isaiah track in terms of how good it is.
My final points are this is again the song is kind of short. It's not even like 2 minutes when you really look at the track size, but this is a case where I felt satisfied with what we got, if you know what I mean. I mean, sure, I want more, but like I don't need more. I just want more, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And this is completely unrelatable. Like Kanye West, get your mix right. You messed up. You should have dropped before Zay, because no, right now, like make my beat reach the heavenly mixes, because like I cannot listen to a shoddy mix project by you again. Not after this.
Yeah. I also like the whole saxophone, and I like the outro. I think
saxes are sexy.
Yeah, it adds to the whole vibe. Notice how we're saying vibe in this whole project. Nothing crazy. It's a vibe.
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. All right, so then we go to, we're finishing like wiping the tears away from our eyes, and we go into Chad.
Hey, bro, look. Sorry, I'm gonna steal the show real quick. First and foremost, that little guitar riff, beautiful. In fact, that gave me mixtape energy, and that, like in the best way possible, if you know what I mean. Shout out to King Tut being on the track. Him and Zay have worked together back in the past. If you know about the album Preacher Son by King Tut, great tape, came out in like 2014, 2015. That's like back when Zay was still not on the come up, but that's like right before Sunside Raid and Chance the Rapper stock was still rising. It's a beautiful time.
Yeah.
This track for me gave me a lot of G30, G35 vibes. If you know the track G30, both by King Tut and Zaywap. I put you on. You may or may not remember.
Yeah,
it's
you
okay.
but put me on that shit.
But honestly, King Tut's verse was very. I liked King Tut's verse. It was very commanding.
Yeah.
Like he actually reminded me of like a Future that like enunciates his words. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just wanted the verse to be longer. I felt like, damn, bro, like you just kind of knocked and it's like left. You could have stayed a little bit longer.
No, yeah, his verse was kind of short. It was
it was like Zay
10 bars or something.
Zay did his thing though. Like Zay, I felt like again, this is another instance of the feature definitely. I'm not gonna say outperformed Zay, but definitely was a shining moment of the track. But Zay definitely added to the overall vibe. Like man says, if I wasn't rapping, baby, I would still be driving Mercedes. Like,
yeah, for me, this track on the initial listen, at midnight, is one of those tracks that I was like, I'm gonna have to give this a few more listens just because I don't know what I'm trying to hear here because I couldn't really like put my finger down on what I necessarily liked about this track. But I think with the production, with the guitar lick, with Tut being on there, I think Tut fits so perfectly on this track too. I wish I could have gotten a little bit more from him because he does just come in. He is on the chorus with Isaiah a little bit, and then he has the feature verse. But I think his feature verse is so. It fits the whole sound of that track, and you can kind of visualize what he's saying in terms of like trapping out like the chevron. I think he said. I think he's like. I like this verse, and then Isaiah as well did his thing on this track as well. Nothing outside of like. I think it's more like this track for me. It was kind of like the more hip hoppier version of like Claymore, where he's still rapping, but he's also coming in with his own like. He's not really like singing, but he's like flowing into the track, and he's fitting well into it and giving that off this like wonderful kind of like working with the production. I ended up actually kind of like really liking this track.
This to me could have been one of the singles if they wanted to kind of be like, look, true. Zay is back. Like,
this would have been a nice single. I mean.
I think this would be less controversial than Lay Wit Ya or arguably even What You Said, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think this, in terms of raising anticipation, I think this would have been a better single choice. One line that really stood out to me getting the hook right. So again, he says, "If I wasn't rapping, baby, I would still be driving Mercedes. Well, I would still be riding this. No, I would still be riding Mercedes. Yep. My new whip looks so related. My old bitch is overrated. If you pop the pill, remember niggas fall like hundreds and fifties." When he said that, I was like, okay, Zay, like I said, he didn't change his. It's not like his subject matter changed. He just sprinkled a little different.
Yeah,
it's a little different. So this is definitely bumping the whip car. This is definitely bumping the whip car energy. Mm-hmm. I would like to just headbang to this in a concert. This is not necessarily like a mosh song, but this is definitely something that I could.
Yeah.
This is a song I would play, and then people would ask me like, "Yo, what is this?" I'm like, "Oh, that's Zaywap." Like, wait, who's Zay? I'm like, "Oh, bro, I got you, bro." Yeah. This is definitely one of those like introduction tracks in my book. Mm-hmm. Anyways, yeah, this is just good mixtape energy.
Yeah, yeah. And then it goes into 9 and 3 freestyle. I mean. This was another one where we were just like, you just play it and you don't give it any thought. You headbang to it. That's it. It's a wrap.
Well, no. You could definitely give it some thought and therefore hate the track. That's definitely a possibility, bro. You could ask yourself, why is this song even here on the album? Like, why is a freestyle on the album, right, bro? Mm-hmm. Like, man.
The whole B+ line and the Prius, that shit was funny, man. I liked it.
It just set the tone. The instrumentation is fire. It's varied. Zay is talking about that, not street talk. He's talking about that pimp shit. Look, man, look, I have no complaints about this song, about the performance. The only thing is why the fuck was there not a Duke Deuce on here?
Yes, man, that's what I said. Why are you taking my take?
Hey, bro, I'm trying to steal. I'm trying to steal all of them shits, bro.
Uh-huh.
Like even just a what the fuck, even just like a what the fuck in the background would have done
Yeah.
for me.
Could have been like Danny Brown taking schoolboys ad libs on this track, but yeah, man, like it's just like this showboaty kind of like him kind of flexing a little bit lyrically, and I mean like you just play this, man. That's it. There's nothing. You don't gotta give it no deep thought.
Don't overthink it, bro.
You don't gotta overthink this one.
Bump in the whip for
it's
sure.
A freestyle. This is a track. Freestyle. Freestyle means you could do whatever.
Bro, this freestyle is a track you play with the homies right before you go get turned up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
This is that pregame music for sure.
Yeah. If you're not thinking too much, just pop this track on. Definitely gets you hyped. Definitely, can make you laugh a little bit. He is showboating a little bit. And I like that. I think we talked about this before, I want to listen to music that makes me feel a little bit like I can flex a little bit as well. And this song really does it for me.
Trying to get a little dark and twisted. I got you.
Yeah. And then we got Score with Kenny.
See. Okay, in short, it's a completely fine track. It's a very vibe-worthy track. Well, I didn't think Kenny Beats could make that type of beat. SZA, fucking gorgeous angel. She did her thing. 6 Lack or Black or 6. He definitely. I liked his verse towards the end. But where was Zay in all of this?
I mean, this is the fan service song. This is to me, this is it's not necessarily, I wouldn't call it SZA's track, but this is the track that people can kind of like begin thinking about. Oh yeah, SZA's gonna be dropping, and I think she sings so well on this track, dude. It's like not that you forget that she's like a really great singer, but now that she's kind of in the mainstream, you kind of undersell her. Like I'm just speaking from my mind personally. Like you kind of like, oh yeah, it's just SZA. But like when you hear her on this track, wow, she really brings this track from like a 7 to like an 8. But that's, we still have to consider the other 2 members or individuals on this track, which is Rashad. He kind of falls to the side on this one, definitely. And Black was fine. I don't think he really added anything, though, to be honest. This could have been fine without Black. I'm not hating on his feature, but I agree with you, man. Where was Rashad on this? This is like the formula for Rashad to like have a great track. West Savannah, Birds, or Doves on Control. This should have been another one in the bag with him and SZA. They've never really missed.
This is to me like another instance of headshots. What we have is more than good. In fact, it's quality vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt, in fact, here, right? So again, with headshots, my concern or my issue was again the second verse. Like even if, let's say, even if the song didn't have necessarily the biggest idea or concept, you could still kind of piece together some ideas and concept, like some ideas of yourself. But specifically because the second verse to me felt so underbaked, that's why I just kind of looked at the song as like untapped potential. This song is not necessarily untapped because, like I said, it's a really good vibe, but it's just like
it's an album cut for the majority of, or just the general like TDE fan base. Just for the average listener of TDE, maybe just hip hop in general. To me, this is what that serves.
You know what it is, maybe? Like, because this definitely has commercial appeal, undeniably so. Yeah. And it's definitely a vibe-worthy track. Like, play this like if this is played in a, let's say, a house party setting or whatever, like, best believe, children are being made.
Yeah.
But I guess, you know what it is? Maybe it's my anticipation. Okay, right. Part of my anticipation is like, okay, whoa, Kenny, Officer Kenneth and Sir Zay. I like when they work together. Like they do interesting things. And then I hear SZA. I'm like, okay, SZA's about to kill the hook. Maybe do like a little sing-songy raps thing. And Six Lack, in my book, is like a feature killer. Like I have no issues with him. So I have no issues with.
Why do you keep calling him that?
Because, bro, he said it's Six Lack. That's what he wrote his name as. Okay. I got to say it. But yeah, so I have no qualms with Six contribution. Mm-hmm. I have no issue with it there. If it wasn't there, I don't think we'd really miss anything, but whatever. But I guess it's like when I see Zay and SZA work together, it's always undeniable heat in my book. Ronnie, I'm trying to think like what songs I'm still got Ronnie with them. Suck in the Mud. Mm-hmm. Got, like you said, Doves
Ronnie
as well
Drake,
on her album.
Doves.
So what?
Doves, Roddy Drake, and West Savannah. Those are all great tracks.
Yeah. So every time when they link up in my book, it's just like untapped magic.
Yeah.
And you know what? No, you know what this feels to me. This feels like a jam session between two friends. That's what it is. And I was expecting something more than just something jammy.
Yeah. I think I'm realizing now that all those tracks that we listened to before, they work with Doves. I think that's a very SZA track, but Isaiah fits in nicely. Then with Ronnie Drake and West Savannah on Sylvia Demo, they fit Isaiah very well. That was the classic Isaiah sound, and SZA contributes nicely. With the vocals, with the chorus, with the hooks. And then with Stuck in the Mud, I think it fits both of them very nicely. Even though it's not like a huge sounding track, they still do fit the vibe. And SZA kind of like brings herself down a bit. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying that she more matches the tone of that production style on Stuck in the Mud. And then I think, but with this track, the production is a little bit, I don't even like saying commercialized, because yeah, if you do play this song, like I would not mind hearing the song like at a party in the background. Like I'd be like, oh, okay, it's score. But I think it more like, yes, I guess on a surface level, it more matches SZA, but at the same time, like there's nothing special about this production, you know? There's no real like emotion behind like something like Doves, or like the general like vibe of that song, or something as like maybe emotionally complex, or in terms of like a soundscape like West Savannah, where they both shine. There's nothing on this album that really elevates either of them, and I think Isaiah takes it a step further and shoots himself in the foot by kind of disappearing on the track, and SZA kind of does her thing. And but at this point, this is what I kind of expect from SZA. So not really like hating on the song, maybe more so disappointed, because they've never missed, and I was honestly excited about this song when the track list came out.
It was like the low-key banger, right? Like, I get another Ronnie Drake.
Yeah, and it was towards the end of the album, and I was like, okay, we're going to get something, heavy-hitting, emotionally driven. But it was just very run-of-the-mill.
Yeah. This is the only time you'll hear me use the word mid on the album. This track to me felt mid. Mm-hmm. Not even like, because like even True Story to me didn't feel mid. It just felt like What Happened to Zay. But this is like, I can truly just say like,
yeah,
like it just felt like a jam session.
Yeah, there's nothing really to write home about this song, in my opinion. And again, like in terms of the track listing and where it was, like I was really, 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 really excited for it. But luckily, we got the last two tracks to kind of close out the album, and also to kind of, I mean,
hey, bruh. This is where my inner Zay fan is coming out real quick. Shout out to the title track, "The House is Burning." Not the acronyms. Fucking read out loud, people. No, you know how many people just will say it by letter, like not recognizing it, just saying "the house is burning." Mm-hmm. Fucking ridiculous. Anyways,
THIB.
I heard this snippet. in the Las Vegas performance. I want to say like back in 2020 or 2019, whenever. I heard the snippet. I was like, okay, I'm feeling this energy hype.
Yeah.
And again, hearing this song, show up in that random snippet, I was like, all right, this is dope. So the fact once I heard the beat, I already lost my shit. I had to like do a quick take back just to like compose myself. Shout out to Missy Elliott and the sample. Look, bro. I know this is pure queso bias out here. Just want to tell it to the people. This song makes me so fucking happy as a fan that a song that I thought would have been lost to the internets of time was able to make the album. And then to hear it official with the proper mixing and mastering is beautiful. And I personally think, now bias removed, I personally think that when you listen to this track, it makes perfect sense why it's the title track of this album. If you really pay attention to the verses, you understand why this is called The House is Burning, off the album The House is Burning by Isaiah Rashad. Do your quick takes, bro. I'm gonna fan out about the song. But
the Goody Mob reference is always classic. The general, like, it's hard to kind of say dark with Isaiah in the sense of like something ominous, because he's definitely rapped and been on tracks that are like, I would more say like depressing. But there are a few cuts on this album that are kind of dark in a very like playfully like sinister way, and the production on this kind of matches the energy of that. But it's with the organ keys, that was so nice. It was like I even with the snippet, that came out like last week. I was like, I know I'm gonna like this one because it's a bit short, but I like the whole like who's that, and then chain swinging.
Sorry. Let me say it for you. Who's that creeping in my window? Who's that fucking with my conscience? No, sorry, I'm not even saying it right. Sorry,
you're not. You're singing it like the Goody Mob song.
Look, bro, all I can say is, who's that fucking with my conscience? Man. That hook alone go to the song. But then when you actually listen to the verse, look, bro, homie says, chain swinging, still empty. Fuck it. Hoes choosy, still empty. Fuck him. I don't even like
Henny. Jesus, bro, stop. You're off the lyric. Responsibility for 5 minutes.
Hey man, that's just because I'm too hyped. That's I'm too hyped. All I gotta say is that Rashad is a star in the low, but don't tell him.
Yeah. I like the first verse because it really talks about, and I think this is more like with the whole sound of the production, it's like it's dark but a little bit sinister in a fun way. But then he's talking about like all these vices not really doing anything for him, or how he's like taking part in these vices because he has this kind of fuck it attitude. And then, like, going back to the chorus about, who's that fucking with my conscience? Me. This is all about me. Like, I'm kind of like doing all these things to myself. I'm an addict. Even if I am in recovery or whatever, I'm still starving. I'm thirsty. Really going into, it gets a little bit dark in that way, which I think is a little bit interesting, because it's not typically, I guess, like the topic of like addiction is kind of, can be dark and depressing, but he's like making a tune out of it, which is not something that he's typically does. I think he's been more successful with songs like Heavenly Father, where he like showcases some of that emotionality and talks about some deep dark shit, but he's kind of flipped the table on this a little bit and done something different.
Look, bro, it's a banger if you just listen to it, and if you pay attention to the actual verses, you get that raw Zay feel. And I like this track. I have no complaints. The only, literally the only thing I guess I would say is that the beat switch up towards the end to introduce the next song felt very abrupt to me. I think that if they wanted, like, I guess what I'll say is that if I was in the studio once the track list is completely confirmed, I would have decided a different transition or let the beat ride out. But
I like the wind chimes coming in and then transitioning to the next song. I don't know if I had an issue necessarily with like them kind of chopping it up and slowing it down, because I do think it matches the whole, I guess maybe not necessarily the vibe of the song, but it's southern influence. Obviously, you got the Goody Mob in there, so maybe that was the decision to kind of chop it up and slow it down. But once the wind chimes come in, you're like, like what's happening? Like what's going on? And then it goes into the last track on this whole album with asking, I don't know what the sample is. It sounds like it's like from a TV show or a movie, but it's like some little girl asking if there's a heaven, and a man responding saying yes, and then she asks him, "How do you know that?" And then I think it's him responding, like you don't. And then
Yep.
it just crashes in so lavishly. I still am struggling to figure out what this, like when I'm hearing this song, I'm like, this is, I can't tell if it's like overall like any TDE member could rap over this beat, like if it is a TDE sound or if it's reminding me of another artist or another style of production. But it is such a great sounding track to kind of close out the album. The first half of this song, we're talking about "Happy Birthday to You," and he kind of it's like him like kind of sailing away, kind of. To me, it's like getting to the finish line after all these years, after recording this album, after getting to this point on track 16, and he's kind of being like not necessarily like saying goodbye, but this is my work right here. And yeah, I don't know.
Bro, that final track, the look, obviously Zay's instrumentation has always been A1. I think that's one of those things that most people will say Isaiah Rashad never fails. But just off the strength of the vibe of the beat, the random vocals, it gives me Thanksgiving vibes for whatever reason, like some kind of holiday season. And then you just hear him talking about payback.
He does pray for many Thanksgivings on this song.
Bro, that is a top 5 Zay track. I don't care. I really don't like that. I'm gonna say it. I'm literally gonna go out the window, jump out the window, and say it. That is a top 5 Zay track. In fact, I'll even say this right now.
I was with you, and then you had to say some bullshit.
Hey man, we can talk about it, but look, I'm gonna say this right now. Zay was smart to use this as the last track, because I'm telling you right now, if this was anywhere in the middle of the track list, everything had to be on that level. In fact, like once we're done with the song, I definitely want to go back to this track. But that first half of the album, man.
Well, that's my issue with saying that it's a top 5 track is that if you were to put it anywhere on the album outside of the last track, it wouldn't make sense because it has that outro kind of feel. Oh, yeah, no, and you also have the second half of this song.
I mean,
which is kind of like the hidden track, kind of the outro to the outro, which is.
See, I view it as a hidden track, so I'm not. That's a different track.
Well, if it was a hidden track, it would be, he would have said it. And I'm not really like I'm not hating on the second half, but it's because how good it was when it came in, and we're kind of gushing over the production and how it sounds and the vocalizations. Sliding in and all that. And then it just goes into like a different sounding production, and it sounds almost like kind of like, not like Layla, like the Derek and the Domino song from like the 70s, 60s, whatever.
Nah, bro, I'm not that old. I'm not as old as you.
But I do like the kind of, I guess maybe like, it's very like a mantra in the outro when he's like saying like, you are now a human being, you are now a human being, you are now a human being. I feel like maybe he's like talking to himself, like you did the work, man, like you've been through so much, maybe now you get to the point where you can understand that you're simply just Isaiah Rashad, that, and it kind of like comes in, That literally comes in and out, but when it goes from like you are now a human being, and then it goes into the bars about him like wanting to pack up his bags and get loaded, whether that's loading up the car or loading up with substances, getting sick and tired, his girl or wife or whoever it is, and him not being present there. I think it's kind of like maybe like flashbacks or something to where he was, or maybe this is him talking about like his father, and maybe like some of the parallels he's seen, with his father, and maybe with himself in terms of addiction, and maybe some feelings of like guilt about not being present with his partners or his children. So that I'll like actually really 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 say that was the part I enjoyed the most about the second half of this song. But it was so, if it was going to be like a hidden track or like in the outro to the outro, I would have liked that beat break, or the like the break in between the two beats to kind of been extended a little bit more, because when I'm hearing that track, it definitely sounds like something you would play on a record player, and kind of like as you're expecting for the kind of record to wind up, you're like, oh, I guess there's the second half of the song, and it's like a pleasant surprise when you have something playing on a record like that. So, I mean, to me, this track, such a great closeout to this album. It's a 9 out of 10 track to me. I don't know if it's top 5 for him all time. Maybe I do need to listen a bit more. Maybe it gets to a level.
You're gonna put it in the top 10 regardless. I already know.
Maybe
that first half,
maybe.
come on, bro.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
My bad. So, all right, bro. So again, just looking at the first half of the track, there's no complaints. That to me is honestly like, you know what's dope? That track to me, in addition of other tracks, but that track to me said you could not get this on a Sylvia demo. You could not get this on the Sunset Ray. This is uniquely, uniquely, I guess, found on this album in the sense that this is, removed from the creative process of making those other ones. This to me feels like, it's funny, and again, like weird. I don't know why my brain goes to that association, but when I hear that song, this kind of reminds me of Groovy Tony by Schoolboy Q / Eddie Kane. Now, not in subject matter or vibe whatsoever.
Yeah.
They're not the same.
Okay.
But it's that sort of like again, it's strictly talking about that first half. That's like that one undeniable track that kind of like will live on. Like it's that one thing that you could arguably say like this is like the one like that will like 5, 10 years or whatever, 20 years, like this is that one song that people will be able to just jam, regardless of you being a Zay fan or not, too. Like this is something that people can just appreciate from whatever walk of life they come from.
Yeah.
Of course, you mentioned the second half of the track, and we have to because that's how it was structured. This is one of the reasons why sometimes it's annoying to deal with streaming, because like low-key, if we didn't know it was 6 minutes, we weren't expecting it, like you mentioned, but we saw it was 6 minutes, so we kind of knew, like, okay, like what's the second thing going to be? I thought it was going to be some kind of skit where maybe he's like talking to his children or to the label heads. Like I thought it was going to be a skit or some kind of like thank you gratitude thing. Instead, he does a song. I can be practical with you and tell you that the performance was lukewarm. It wasn't bad. It wasn't inoffensive, but maybe it was inoffensive, but no, it was inoffensive that he didn't do anything bad or wrong, but maybe just a little bit like underwhelming. I can say that. I can truly say that the second half was underwhelming in retrospect.
Maybe. Mm-hmm.
But now, again, my personal feelings and my emotions. And again, maybe it's because we listened to it at night. That could honestly also add it to it. But even multiple listens to it, like onwards, this gave me straight up Swimming in Circles vibes by Mac Miller. Rest in peace. And by recognizing one of the greats, of the 2010 rappers dying through drug overdose, hearing the man, hearing him rap about, again, being a human being, this is not as hard as it gets, but I'm still on drugs on the weekend. That's an instance of a song that made me feel. So despite me being able to say for certain that it's not as well, well produced and whatnot, I can truly say that, like, that was a human moment. That was
Yeah.
honestly a moment that's something music doesn't make you feel like that all the time, and that's like a special moment for me. So like, you are now a human being. That's all I could say.
Yeah, and I think just going off of that point, he's always talked. He's been mostly open about his struggles with addiction. He's talked about it, hereditary, and kind of like how he's had to struggle with it, from his whole life, really, with his father having issues with it, and how he kind of developed addiction himself. And I think that specific line right there is like, you're gives a little bit, maybe an idea of like maybe what it's like to battle addiction. That the fact that you're still willing to kind of get fucked up, just for the weekend buzz, even if there's really nothing going on in terms of like maybe there's nothing challenging going on in your life at that moment, where you might find some way to justify as an addict, using substances because life is so hard right now. I need the drink, I need the bud, I need the whatever. But he's kind of saying like life isn't that hard right now, but I'm still getting fucked up. Maybe that's talking about more so like maybe those inner demons that he's been kind of running away from, or that are still following him. Going back to tracks earlier on this cut, like All Herb. So I do think it can give like the listener an idea, or maybe people who are listening to this album, a source of where they can relate to an artist like this who can kind of like talk about their issues with substances, how it's impacted them, where they've come from. He's come from Tennessee to LA to kind of be on this label, and I'm sure that's not easy for him, to kind of leave home. But what did he leave at home, right? There's a question there that you kind of have to maybe think about, like what kind of home situation was he in, or he had to kind of leave, and maybe looking back at that. But I think just the whole you're now a human being, like maybe as a human being battling with addiction, like these are some of the realities in terms of maybe the things that you think about, just to get that weekend buzz. So I think as the last track, Happy Birthday to You, the first half is immaculate.
Yes.
Lyrically though, compared from the first half of the song to the second half, I think the second half holds a little bit more in terms of substance, no pun intended. But the production is kind of a little bit. There's nothing on this album that sounds like it, so it's kind of a little bit jarring. But I think it fits the lyrics. I think the general tone of the lyrics as well. So it's such a great album closer to me. Maybe it is in my top 5. Definitely, maybe my top 10. And yeah, the house is burning.
Yeah, man. And that's after 4+ years of waiting, we finally got a piece of work that we're able to digest, dissect, criticize, appreciate, praise, buy concert tickets to, maybe merch, and all that wonderful jazz. But now we have to do the flannel. We have to put on our flannels and be critical about it.
Mm-hmm.
Holistically speaking, of course. We gave our opinions on the individual tracks, what we liked, what we didn't.
Yeah.
So I'll go first, just
all right.
because.
I'm excited. Go ahead.
All right. So first and foremost, if you guys remember episode 1 of the podcast, we were actually very much grilling TDE on needing to restore the feeling again, or kind of reminding people why it is that they are the mafia of the West. In my opinion, this album reminds me why I'm a TDE fan. So TDE right now is 1 for 3. Still waiting for SZA's Kendrick whenever they drop, probably in 2024, whenever. But TDE, you did a good job. So shout out to them. This album to me did not feel redundant in the damn formula, or at least not in the typical damn formula.
Uh-huh.
They allowed Zay to do his thing, and very much this is not Sunstar Ray Part 2 or Sylvia Demo Part 2. Like, this is not like the Lucy's of those albums, or like them trying to recreate that sound. This is him creating something new. Now, looking at this as just a hip hop project, right? Like, not forget Zay, forget TD. This is a piece of music that exists in hip hop. If I had to be objective about it, I would give this a 7. To be very frank with you, it's light, high, 7, whatever. I'm gonna give it a 7. To be very frank with you, um, in terms of my personal enjoyability, I'd give it a high 8. To be honest with you, like this is an album I'll definitely be listening to because one, it's 45 minutes, which is definitely like like nice album time length. But it didn't feel like that to me whatsoever. It felt more like 20 or 30 minutes at most. Like for whatever reason, I always get like surprised when I'm like, oh, it's score already. Whenever I
Mm-hmm.
listen, when I listen to the tracks, so that's always a good sign when the music goes faster than you think. I think that Zay embarked upon a new sound, or at least took a different direct, not a new sound, but he took a different direction stylistically about creating this album. One where he essentially elevated the vibes. He elevated the production game for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He also did not get rid of his the lyrical component. No, the nature of his writing is still as raw as ever. That hasn't changed. Arguably even darker when you think about some of the like the sort of light, dark, like the contrasts that exist in this album. Because unlike his previous work, this album actually shows a little bit more hopefulness than a Sun's Tirade or Sylvia Demo, in my personal opinion. So that just kind of like makes the dark stuff even more like pop, in my opinion. But Zay's lyrical presence on this album is very much lacking. Now, I view that as a stylistical choice because I think that he,
Yeah.
instead of being like a rapper rapping over beats, I think that he was contributing towards the beat and the overall sound,
Mm-hmm.
aka creating a vibe. But I do remember and understand that Zay was able to create vibes and still be, lyrically present on every track, like in his older work. So to those who find out to be lacking and say, "Hey, man, this shit is garbage," like, man, it's not rapping or whatever, like this is weak. I don't agree with you because I think that his contribution towards the overall vibe is so much more. I think it's so much more professional than his older work that this kind of feels distinct. And when you look at what he's saying, he still keeps it raw. He's not rap. He didn't switch his content. It's not like he's rapping about whatever doesn't affect him personally. But the way he presented it is definitely a lot more muted. And in fact, you even mentioned it on her. You felt that Zay's presence was quite muted on that. On True Story, you and I both agreed, Zay, where were you at? Zay, where were you? Or on Score. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like, and he like, and despite me essentially liking all the feature verses and thinking that they all, well, maybe besides Uzi, I guess, but even Uzi was fine. I don't think that I don't think all the feature verses washed him, but I can definitely understand, and I'll concede to anyone who says that when the features are arguably more memorable on the track than you are, that's an issue. And I'm not gonna fight anyone who has that issue with this album because, yeah, Zay definitely was like almost a background character or a supporting role to his own album, which I think holistically makes the music sound good. But I can see how you could have your frustrations about that. And the reason that you don't hear me complaining about that is because I was on my Kanye binge for the longest time, like for the last 2 weeks. So Kanye West makes great music, but I don't think that Kanye West is necessarily always the best component at the music he makes. But because we attribute it to him, I'm able to say that the music that came out of this album, I find amazing. It's not always done by Zay, but I don't think that Zay took away of any of the vibes. And that's my rambly review.
Huh. Okay. I'm not really gonna respond to that initially. I think I'm just gonna come out with my opinion about this project. Like we said, going into it when we hit play on at midnight, initially nervous. Um, I could just say, generally speaking, I'm happy with the kind of product that we got. I guess I am satisfied. Maybe I wanted a little bit more. Maybe I wanted to be blown away, but with what we have on this project, not only do we have some, in our opinion, some of his best work, but there's a whole kind of new kind of style that he's kind of going in, which for a lot of fans of TDE or Rashad specifically, that might bring up some conflict in you because I can understand coming from Sylvia Demo, coming from Sun's Tirade. If you really love those albums because of Zay's presence lyrically, then you probably won't like this album. And can I really blame you for that? A little bit, because I think, and I think we're going to touch on this topic with next week's episode, in terms of this whole notion of, how artists, have been for the last, mostly, I guess, in the last decade, starting to kind of push forth this style of, like, coming out with projects that kind of present a vibe, a musical soundscape, and not necessarily relying so much on penmanship anymore, but
Future.
crafting a whole sonic experience, so you can kind of attribute, oh, this is a Juice World track, or sounds like Juice World, or this sounds like XXX, or this is influenced by Kendrick. So I think Isaiah's kind of taking that into account now, and I think it's refreshing that somebody like Isaiah is trying to switch things up stylistically, trying to come out with quality tracks, trying to bring on people on here that we might have never heard of if it weren't for Isaiah, like I Am Dochi, letting Cal Banks shine on this project throughout the whole thing.
Hey.
There were a couple tracks that I really might not just come back to, but can I say I outright hate them? Not necessarily. No, not really. Um, like his last two projects, like Sylvia Demo and Sun's Tirade, there are tracks on there that I would not say I hate. There's nothing about those two projects or any tracks on those projects that I think I hate, or definitely I'll skip them. And there will be a couple tracks that I'll skip on this project. Um, from front to back, though, I can kind of get through this in one sitting. Have no issues with that. I think there's a lot of peaks on this album. I have individual kind of rankings for each song. Most of them range in the 7, 8s. I have a couple 6s, and a couple 9s. But overall, like, this was a very digestible project to me. I think vocally, yes, I would have liked a little bit more from Isaiah. But I think this is just more in, I guess, maybe in terms of the genre of hip hop. Now we're kind of meshing everything together, and it's entering the mainstream. So what is really successful? What gets really played? I think Isaiah's trying to maybe pay attention to that, and maybe that's a little bit selfish. But I think he's doing it in his own way. I don't think anything about this I was like, this is not Rashad. We lost him. TDE is going down the shithole. Like, we'll see. Like, with the first week sales, how they look like, if maybe what he was trying to come out with what he was trying to push with this project, does provide some benefit in album sales and replay value. But I mean, how can you not like tracks like "Hey Mista," "Happy Birthday to You," "The House is Burning,"
Don't shoot.
"Don't Shoot"? I mean, there's Chad. There's a lot of gems here, and if maybe just get past the point of maybe, like, you were back in undergrad at your whatever college you were bumping some tirade, high school. Now you're older and you're like, I miss the old Isaiah, and like, maybe you have to let that go, just like Isaiah's letting go some things about his life in terms of his demons. Um, but I'm happy that he's still rapping a lot about what he's struggled with. Just the classic, just showboating, flexing lyrics. But there's nothing on here that I would say like that's objectively like ass, or outside of outside of presence on the track. Definitely, that's the one thing I can understand about people that do not like this album, is his presence might be a little bit lacking on a couple tracks on this album, and maybe just overall, honestly, like overall, I think he's a little bit more laid back, because the features do kind of shine through. I think anybody who sang on this album besides Isaiah really kind of like stole away the track, or shone through on the track. In terms of the feature verses, how we kind of talked about J Rock, Lil Uzi, they kind of fall short. But yeah, I'm gonna say, all in all, You know, 7.5 for me. 7.5 out of 10. I'm
Hey
not gonna.
man,
I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna go any higher because Sun's tirade and Sylvia demo, and we can get into this another day. So I'm not gonna necessarily like.
Harpoon, I got you.
I'm not gonna say the rating specifically, but both those projects are at least an 8. And if I'm gonna say this is an 8, I'm saying that this is on the level of those two projects, which I can't really do. Honestly, yeah, as much as I like this album, I cannot do that. Um, but I think
No,
it's a
that's
nice
fair.
it's a
That's
nice
fair.
place in his discography. So if we can get another project in the next year or two, Isaiah, this is a nice little taste. So
Yo, bro, you dreaming, bro? Trying to get a project in the next 2 years. What do you think this is, man? A regular rapper on a regular label? Come on, bro. It's TDE, baby. All right, man. Look, I'm not gonna talk about this album in relation towards the other two tapes, only because it's not even been 3 days yet. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I've lived with Sylv, I've lived with Sun. I'm just now absorbing this tape. Who knows? Maybe like after a week or a month, I'll like be like, man, this is weak. No, I doubt it. I doubt it. But to I guess close, to give closing arguments, right?
yeah,
What I've always appreciated, because again, like I'll even go as far as to say this when it comes to Zay's music. I think that Zay has like one to three standout tracks. So like they're just like undeniable within the lane, and then everything else is kind of like good stuff in the musical lane that either you rock with or like it's. I'm not gonna use the word mid. It's like either stuff that feels very on brand for Zay, or maybe you like Zay taking that direction. So again, on Sylvia demo, my personal favorite song is R.I.P. Kevin Miller. That is like the song that just does it for me. Go figure. Or that and Menthol. But I think we could all agree say that all Zay fans would probably say, but Heavenly Father is kind of like the one on the tape, right?
right.
Sunstar Raid, I'd say that people would probably say For the Squad or Free Lunch are the ones, even though that you personally might have, your own favorites. For me, A Lot is definitely like up there. Also, shout out to Kendrick's verse. Whew. That Gemini line, so crazy. Anyway, so now
line.
On this tape, I feel in this tape, he still was able to replicate, I guess, that pattern just in a different soundscape. So there are definitely songs that I think are the one. I think right now it's going to be, R.I.P. Young. But despite that, I still have my own personal favorites. What do I go to for Zay music? I go there for two primary things. I go there for raw lyrics and for vibes. The vibes are there, arguably even amplified from the other two tapes. Definitely more vibey than let me not do that. But definitely the vibes are there. We can all agree, like, this is headbanging music, bumping the whip music for sure. And the rawness that I enjoy from Zay is still there. You have to look for it more. He's no longer presenting him as like a hungry ass rapper, but it's still there. And that's why, despite his presentation of his rawness not being what I expected or thought it would be from his older works, that is not I'm not marking the album down for that. That's why I'm very comfortable to say this feels like he just took a stylistical choice in a different direction. There's one argument that I've heard someone say, which, just to be honest, if you don't, like, they didn't care for how Zay carried himself. Like, again, it goes back to the presence where they just felt that Zay sounded like weak on the track. Like they just didn't like Zay's vocal performance. I mean, I have personally no issues with that, but I guess one thing that could be like something we should at least consider is like maybe due to his, like his whole stints with abuse and specifically with his alcohol abuse, having issues with his stomach lining back in the day or like back in 2019, maybe he can't reach those certain registers or levels like he once used to. And that doesn't change that you'd like the music or not. It's just something to kind of consider when it comes to, again, the rawness of his musical, like the rawness of his subject and seeing how that might have actually affected the type of music he creates. I'm sure that Isaiah Rashad is able to write an immaculate verse. And I'll even say this. If this album was Happy Birthday, the album, like if all the songs on this tracks or most of the songs carry that Happy Birthday level of like personal ability in writing and all that stuff, bro, this might have been the best album ever, to be honest with you. And it's not. So take the best track, to those who like the songs, bump to it. To those who feel like it's mid, hey man, maybe Zay can do it better. But I don't think that I felt that Zay executed on an idea very well. This to me is his dam. He kind of reduced the bar work a bit, but he didn't compromise on what it is that we kind of go for, which again is the vibes and the rawness and the lyricism. And hopefully, he gets the success that he wants, and maybe you'll feel inspired to like drop music more consistently.
Mm-hmm.
There's talks and rumors about him dropping a deluxe, which yes, please. But even if we don't get a deluxe, and this is what we'll get until like another 5 years, I am not disappointed as a TDE fan. I'm not disappointed as a fan. This feels like a nice addition to the catalog. Maybe not the best. That will be. We'll talk about that probably at the end of the year, honestly. But right now, Zay, you fucking did it. Shout out to you. It's not perfect. In fact, I'm not even going to use the word album of the year. People are saying that I don't know. That's just off of hype, honestly, in my book. But
yeah, I think it's a fine standalone project. I'm happy we got it.
I'm happy that I bought it. This is a piece of music that I decided to buy, and I think it was my money well worth spent. So enjoy the moment, Zay.
Yeah, just to wrap this all up, I don't think he failed in delivering this project. I'm happy with it. I think this is a fine project. I think it fits nicely into his discography. We'll see what's to come in the next few years. See how the decade plays out, and what he decides to kind of cook up next. But I think this will hold us over. And 16 tracks on here. If you're a TDE fan, there are a few things on here that that are pretty traditional to kind of the TDE sound. So I would still say kind of give this album a chance. There are some short sights, but at the end of the day, I think there are still quality tracks. There's still tracks that will kind of be played forever and ever, at least in my rotation. We'll keep that going steady. But yeah, man, this is. I still can't believe that we got an Isaiah project, but I'm mostly happy that we just did at the end of all of this. So, yeah,
I'm happy that I can genuinely appreciate the album.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm forcing to either. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that was The House is Burning. Isaiah Rashad's latest project. Next week, kind of talking more a little bit. Maybe we can kind of jump off of like where Isaiah's kind of going with the sound and delivery of this album, but more from a general landscape in terms of the genre of hip hop. Shout out to T-Pain.
Sounds cool.
So yeah, that was Steady Rotation. We out here, we vibing. Keep bumping that Isaiah, and we'll catch y'all next week.
Hey man, hey Mr. Live.
Oh my God, I'm going crazy on that song. I don't care. If I lose y'all, I'll lose y'all. I'll meet you at the end of the show. But I'm losing myself to that song. I hope he plays it. He will.
Bro, he has to. I'm gonna go deceased. I'm going deceased on that track.
He definitely will. All right. Steady Rotation. We out.
Peace.